have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Like a big gorilla. And that's when I just turned around, grabbed my necklace, and just prayed, please, God. I just knew that it was something to get away from.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Leave a voicemail to get on the show, speakpipe.com/tops. Use the live message option on our Facebook group, Top's Bunker. Email us at shtf@topsbunker.com. Visit our site, topsbunker.com. I want to thank y'all for joining us. We got a great show for you tonight. In case y'all haven't figured it out by now, this is our annual Halloween special. It's one of the holiday events that allows us to step away from the real world of preparedness and survival and just have a little fun trying to scare each other. Rhonda, Jeremy, and myself are joined tonight by a very special guest who's going to take us into the bizarre and downright freaky world of the paranormal with her real-life chronicles of ghost hunting and clairvoyant adventures. Buddy's daughter, Amisa, is our special guest tonight. She's an impressive 20-year-old who really knows how to navigate the realm of high strangeness. Unfortunately, Buddy is still out on mission on the East Coast, helping to get much-needed supplies and assistance to the storm-ravaged areas of North Carolina, Tennessee, and other areas. So my prepper brothers and sisters, forget about real life for the next hour as we say Happy Halloween the Top's Bunker way. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We have Rhonda, my beautiful wife, is hanging out with us. Jeremy, y'all know Jeremy, and Buddy's daughter, Amisa, is with us tonight. Buddy cannot be with us. He is out on the road. So, tonight's our Halloween special. We do this every year. We tell some cool stories, some scary stories, whether they're real, fake, or in between, who knows, but they're scary, they're fun, and this is how we do to break from the norm, get away from some of the BS of prepping and survival and all the crap that's going on in the world and just have a little bit of fun. So we're going to start tonight with Jeremy wants to go first. He's chomping at the bit. He wants to tell a story. From what I understand, this is a true story.
Yeah. So this happened around late 2002, I believe it was. And it was just before we went to Iraq in 2003. And my unit was sent up to West Point, New York, to help conduct their summer training. And what we'd do is we would get assigned a large group of cadets, and then myself and my soldiers would take them, and they would have to go through, a series of tasks, walk to another place, conduct a series of tasks, and they just kept doing that. We walked them, quite a few miles. So we got them bedded down in an area, gave them, their work requirements. And me and my guys, we kind of went up a hill a little bit and got set up and crashed. And you know that like there's that moment when you think you're kind of between awake and asleep. Well, when that happened, right next to my ear, it almost felt like somebody's mouth was literally like on my ear. Somebody whispered, "Don't even think about it." And I jumped up because I thought these dudes are messing with me. I looked around. I didn't see anything. I put my night vision on. I didn't see anything. And I went and I woke them up, and I was like, why are y'all messing with me? And when I woke them up, I realized that they were asleep. And they were looking at me like I'm like absolutely out of my skull. And they were like, we're not messing with you. I said, okay. Told them what had happened, and they were like, well, maybe it was a cadets. Who knows? So I went and I laid back down, kind of looked around a little bit, and then all of a sudden it happened again. Something in my ear said, don't even think about it. So I shot back up, and I was angry this time. And I woke him up again. I was like, are you guys messing with me? And I told him again and what had happened. So we all kind of sat there and looked around. I had them put their night vision on, and they're looking around. I walked down the hill, and I started waking up cadets. I was angry. I was pissed off. I started just going haywire. And they swore up and down that they were not messing with me. So at this point, I think we were all kind of freaked out. And so I moved my sleeping bag a little closer to them, because maybe if they were messing with me, that I would, figure out that they were moving around. So we all sat there back to back with our night vision on, and then out of the blue, from, it was all around us, we heard footsteps. Now, it could have been a squirrel, but I've never heard a squirrel hop or move around in a square formation. It was literally these footsteps through the grass, went to a spot, turned, went to another spot, turned, and that kept going and going and going. So we were all thoroughly freaked out. I was angry. I'm like, why is this happening? Why now? So we got back up in the morning, and I just went to look around. Maybe, some local yokel was out there screwing with us or whatever. But I actually found a old cobblestone wall, a broke down, like old stone building, basically a foundation, a small walking path. But the building itself, it could have been an old house or something like that. And come to find out that predating the Revolutionary War, there were a bunch of British soldiers in that small area that were slaughtered by Native American peoples. And we were sleeping literally in the middle of that area.
Are you kidding me?
No, man, I am not kidding. I am not kidding at all. And I forget how many were killed there, and I can't even remember the name of it, but it's up by West Point, and it's north of Bear Mountain. And it was it freaked me out pretty bad. And I'm not even necessarily like a big believer in ghosts and things like that, but that one really, really freaked me out bad. And then of course last year when we had the 20th reunion, 20-year reunion with that unit, those guys that were with me, that came up when I was eating breakfast with one of my daughters, and he's like, don't even think about it. And I looked around and I was like, I will smack you in the mouth if you ever do that again. Yeah. I mean, and they heard it too. They heard the footsteps. They didn't hear whatever or whomever was whispering into my head, but they did hear what sounded like the steps. I do truly believe that evil can purvey in an area when a heinous act is done. Like for instance, we went to Europe a couple of years ago to spend some time with one of our daughters and grandkids and whatnot, and we actually went to Auschwitz. And if you've never physically been there, the pictures and whatever you've seen, it doesn't portray it. But I can remember feeling the evil and like the pain left behind of that place. And it was kind of similar with that place in West Point there.
I can only imagine. I've seen Band of Brothers, and I did a bunch of deep diving into all that stuff afterwards, looking at videos and pictures and all that. And there was some pretty serious stuff that happened out there. I can't believe you actually went there.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't necessarily want to call it a touristy spot.
It kind of is. It kind of is now.
Yeah, but in this thing in West Point, you get that. I don't know if you've ever had it where you're in the woods in nature, beautiful day, but you feel like something is there, like not just squirrels or maybe a possum looking down at me like, look at this idiot, but like you feel something gazing on you. That's what I felt that day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you have a cryptid story?
I don't know if I would say it's a cryptid.
You're called the dog man for some reason.
That's because of my training with dogs.
Oh, okay.
And the house being destroyed by our current dogs. But so I have been on a stock hunt, especially when I was down in Georgia and I was stationed there. And I kind of got bored with deer hunting because there's so many deer. You can fill your tag in like an hour and a half. And so I got into pig hunting. So there in Georgia, you can hunt pig day and night, bow, shotgun, with a light, without. And I was moving into an area and I was by myself. Shouldn't have done that, but I was moving into an area, and when I was moving along, I saw a set of eyes looking back at me. And normally, if it's like, some kind of critter, you'll see the eyes and they'll look at you for a sec and then they'll leave. Well, these eyes were staring back at me, and they were not in a tree. They were near the ground, and they were about 3 feet off the ground. And I thought, oh, great. This sucks. I'm about to meet my end. I thought it was a big cat. I thought it was something like that. Well, those eyes stood up a little bit higher, and I was probably like, I'd say 50 to 75 meters away from it. And I was basically looking eye to eye to these eyes, and they were front facing eyes. They weren't on the side. They were front facing.
So was this eye shine or eye glowing?
Eye shine.
So you're reflecting off of your flashlight or whatever you have.
Yeah. And again, it could have been a critter just hanging off the side of a tree, but when it turned and left, it did so quickly, but the eyes would turn back around and look at me and then kept going. And at one point in time, this thing turned around and it just stared at me. And I was like, nope, not doing it. I am not doing that. I fired a shot and it ran, but before it could even think about running that way or the opposite direction, I fired a shot, and I have yet to move that fast again. I didn't even move that fast in combat. I was sprinting back to my truck.
You saw baby Bigfoot.
It could have been. I mean,
yep. Or
it could have been some stoned out local hanging out in the woods who had glassy eyes because they had, hit a serious bong riff. I don't know, but
I don't think humans have eye shine like that.
I don't think so either. But Georgia can get kind of weird down there. And on a good day, I'm right around 5'6" if I stretch. This thing was probably my height or maybe an inch or two taller. So, but I couldn't ever get a look at its body. That's the thing I couldn't, and it could have been a bear because they do have bears. But I just couldn't visually see a whole lot of it other than these eyes looking back at me. So, yeah.
I would be more scared if it was a bear or a mountain lion than I would be if it was a Bigfoot.
That's true. I mean, but the bears are such weird animals. They're like, there is no other animal that is comparable to a bear. Like a cat is a cat, but a bear, it's just this big lump of claws and teeth and fur and they smelled horrible.
And they
But-
can rip your arms off.
Yeah. But the thing is if it was a bear and we were having that standoff for long enough, it would have come at me. But whatever it was that I was looking at did not come at me. That's the one thing that I did notice. It did not make an approach towards me, but it was just staring me down. I've never felt like such a snack before.
I'm curious whether you saw it blink.
I don't know, actually, now that I think about it. I think that my head and my body became so overloaded with adrenaline. I might have peed a little, but no, I don't even know if I remember it blinking. I just remember the eyes and thinking, all right, well, I'm screwed. I might as well go down with a fight, and I'm going to go down with a fight. And I also had to remember that the area, Fort Benning is largely a basic training base. They do basic training, and they also do the advanced individual training for infantry soldiers there. And the areas that I would hunt at night, especially, I made sure I checked to make sure that nobody was in those areas for training and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a person, because these eyes shined like, you see a cat when, the light hits it and it shines back at you, or even a dog. But this thing, I mean, it's just staring me down.
Do you remember
Yeah.
if it was a green shine or yellow?
I don't know. I just remember it was bright.
Just shining right back at you.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah, that's
like
right,
spider eyes.
Yeah.
Rhonda, because different animals have different type of colors, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Dogs have a tendency to be a slightly greenish bluish look.
Yep.
Cats are a little bit
Yellow.
different.
Yellow, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
Golden, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of color. And of course, cats are always staring at us like we're peasants, anyways.
And demons have red glare.
Mm. Well, this thing was
I
more
thought that was
like
Bigfoot.
the only way I can describe it is if you've seen Lord of the Rings, when Gollum's eyes had that glare back, it kind of looked like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep. Yeah.
Amisa, you're our expert. You're our resident expert. So, do demons have the red eyes?
Luckily, I don't think I've ever seen one. That
Good
would
for
not
you.
be good. Don't intend on seeing one anyways. But I would say that it can put on whatever eyes that could gain your trust the fastest.
Ooh, I never thought about that.
Very deceptive, very tricky.
Sounds like an ex-wife.
It could be your ex-wife.
Well,
Jeremy-
that depends on which one you're talking about.
And Jeremy, you took a shot at it?
I did.
That's
had
crazy. That's
a-
crazy,
yeah,
man.
I had a rifled barrel shotgun, and I had 12 gauge slugs loaded in it, because wild pigs can be somewhat difficult to put down. They're very, very tough animals, extremely tough, and they are elusive. But you can, whenever you get near a herd of pigs or a pack of pigs, you can hear them. You can definitely smell them. And this was not any animal like I've ever seen, and I don't even think it couldn't have been a deer. And if it was a deer, that would have been the biggest deer that I'd ever seen in Georgia, because the deer there are pretty small, especially in the Fort Benning area, or now called Fort Moore. But it wasn't that. It was something different.
I've always said if I've seen a Bigfoot or a cryptid like that, I would just unload the entire magazine and get my $1 million. But the truth is, a lot of people on these shows and stuff, they talk about their sightings and this and that, and they say that they're almost human-like, like they don't want to pull the trigger. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, but if anything, if I saw what I even thought or suspected was an actual thing like that, I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna be hooking and jabbing and running as much as I possibly can, because I'm sorry, but I don't want to be digested by something like that. I have no qualms with shooting at some unknown creature.
So, do you have any other stories, Jeremy?
Not any really cool ones, no.
I want to ask you, since we still got you, I want to ask you. I heard now you were in the Army, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I heard that the Marines in Iraq had some kind of run-in with like a giant or a Bigfoot or something, and it was way down the rabbit hole. Have you ever heard that story?
I don't know that I've ever heard that one.
They were very, very descriptive. They were talking about the weapons that this thing had. It had red hair. It was in some cave systems. I don't know, man.
Now, I have experienced way, way, way above average human beings, males especially, in size, in both Iraq and Afghanistan. But if you ever saw, now this is kind of a terrible way to put it, and I don't know another way to describe it, but if you ever saw a person in Iraq and Afghanistan who had red hair and basically white skin, they were typically the product of the Russian-Afghanistan era war, and those were from Russian soldiers, and Russians aren't small people.
Right. Right.
I remember meeting one of them in Afghanistan. He was probably every bit of 6'6", 6'7", maybe more. Not very bulky, but he was just this abnormally huge Afghani dude. And Afghani people are not very big. But this dude was like, he came out of nowhere, and he was supposed to be like a forklift operator or something. And I looked up at this cat and I was like, your father is obviously a massive Russian. Like, and he was not treated well by other people in Afghanistan because they know that he was a product of, the Russian war.
He's a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, I mean, I've never heard about the giant thing, but I have seen some pretty huge people over there that felt like they shouldn't be there. I do know that.
You guys got any questions for Jeremy? You got anything you want to ask him about his sightings and experiences?
I have one last question.
What's up?
I'm just curious if the next day you went and kind of explored that area to see if you saw anything peculiar around there. No.
But that was the last time I went hunting at night by myself. From then on, anytime I would go back out at night, I would try to dupe somebody and going with me. And they were like, dude, why do you only call me to go out at night? And I was like, well, it's good hunting. And really what it is I figure if I like hit them in the knee, I can run faster and leave them behind to get digested.
It was strategic.
Yeah. Cause I mean, zombie apocalypse, find the heavier person, just kick them in the knee and run, get them out of the way first. But, yeah, and I wanted, if anything ever happened again, I wanted somebody else to see it so I know that I'm not crazy. Because, you when you go back and you reflect on these things, you're like, did I actually see that? Maybe I didn't see it. I'm not on any illicit drugs. I know I didn't see any, I'm sane. So what the heck is going on? That was my reasoning behind that. So
creepy.
All right, I want to hear something from Isa. I want to hear one of your ghost stories. I want to hear something freaky.
Okay, I'll start off relatively light with this one. So, cut back to when I was little. At this time, I was in private Catholic school. I think I was in first grade. My dad was deployed overseas, and I was having breakfast at the table. And eating waffles, I could remember, and all of a sudden this fly comes out of nowhere, and I'm swatting it away, kind of throwing my head around, trying to get it away, and I turn and look over towards like the calendar. We had a calendar, and next to it we did a pie chart of like an estimate of when my dad would come back, and standing there was my recently passed great-grandma, so my dad's grandma. I've never seen her stand before in my life. She's always been like in an assisted living facility. Wasn't like fully there for when I could remember. I knew she liked red roses and things of that sort, but I've like never really like seen her stand. But I turn over after flotting away the flies, and I look over to the calendar, and she's standing there holding a red rose with this black blouse covered in little red roses, pointing to the day on the calendar when my dad would return.
Was she right?
Yes.
No kidding, really?
No, yes, and that was my dad's grandma. So I run into my mom's room, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, guess what I just saw? Like, I just saw Grandma Morrison, standing there, just pointing at the calendar." And at that moment, she kind of knew. She's like, "Okay, I see what's going on." Because usually, if your kid tells you something like that, that's a little strange. But with my mom, she's seen ghosts all her life, so I think that's something I inherited. But that was a really positive message that it sent, and came and told all my dad's family, and they're like, "What? That's weird," because I guess they were a little bit more closed off to that. But yeah, that's
And how old were you?
Oh gosh, I was in first grade, so I'm trying to think. I can't remember the exact age, but I do remember going to school the next day telling all the kids from my class that I saw my grandma, my great grandma, who's dead, standing in the kitchen.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, gotta talk for my mom. She's like, "You can't tell people that." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "'Cause that's not normal." And I was like, "But I saw her." Yeah, that was the first one I ever saw. It was a good message, for me at least. And then as I went on to start seeing things, it started getting a little bit more, I guess, intense, or had some malice to it.
So your mom didn't react negatively?
Oh no.
Okay.
Since she was little, she would see things, and so would her mom and her mom's mom. So they kind of always saw some things here and there. So she kind of figured it was going to happen, but she didn't know exactly when. And plus, children are more open to seeing ghosts and everything because that veil is so thin of consciousness. So if a little kid comes up to you and asks you who's the guy standing behind you, just know there probably is something standing behind you.
Man.
Is this the type of thing that you have on your Instagram or your other content where you create?
No, I am trying to just get a little bit more in depth with some technology that I'm using. Trying to learn everything a little bit better before I start posting it. Still learning everything. I kind of took inspiration from Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got some things that they've used on there, which you can surprisingly buy off Amazon if you guys wanted to. But
oh, you mean equipment wise?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like the mel meter and all that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
I've got all the good stuff.
Nice.
We had an experience with, what was that piece of equipment called, Keith, that showed the figures?
Yeah, it's the same thing that they use in the what is that thing? The video game system where they
an SLS camera.
SLS, that's it. Mm-hmm. SLS. Mm-hmm. Where it shows you those stick figures and the dots.
Yeah, so we went on a ghost hunt, and it was in a village that was from the 1800s, I guess. It had little cabins everywhere, and
1600s, 1700s.
1700s, pardon me. There was a figure that was standing over in the corner of the room, and didn't you have dowsing rods, Keith?
I had dowsing rods, yes, and they were doing some weird stuff to dowsing rods. They were kind of moving off to my left-hand side, I believe.
Yeah, well, this figure ended up behind Keith and looked like it was kind of like leaning over his shoulder. It was really weird.
Yeah, and I don't know how much to trust the SLS cameras, but it was really weird that we had heard something. Remember, we heard whisper something off in that area, and then the dowsing rods moved over in that area, and then that SLS camera picked up that weird, strange figure next to me. It was crazy.
Man, I would sprint. I would be moving at 500 miles an hour. I am not kidding. I thought dowsing rods were used for finding water.
Yes, but
yeah,
also...
But y'all are out here finding demons and shit.
It just depends on your intention behind it, I think. I use them in some of my investigations that I do privately. And they kind of... You can ask questions. I like to try to get in a little meditated state beforehand and try to get in touch with my spirit guides or guardian angels or whatever you want to call them, a spiritual team, and ask them for guidance, and they start doing their thing.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, that the science behind it is that, if there is a science behind it, is that the whatever the atmospheric situation is not affecting the dowsing rods, it's affecting you. In return, you're affecting the dowsing rods. It's channeling through you into the rods, not directly into the rods, from what how it was explained to me. Because there are people that have been using these things for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, to find water, gold, different types of minerals in the ground, and they're spot on. They walk right up to the spot and they dig, and there it is. So anyway, all right, Amisa, tell us another one.
All right, this one's getting a little bit crazier. This is about second grade year. There was this big festival in one of the towns that I went to school in, and afterwards, we're in like a little old downtown area that was around forever from beforehand, and there's an antique store, and my mom really wanted to go look at the antiques and everything and look around, and me and my sister really weren't interested because it smelled like old people in there. So we're just kind of looking around, and the second I got in there, just this heavy feeling kind of weighed down on me, and it felt like pressure on my shoulders and on my chest. And so I look at my mom and I'm telling her, like, I can't really breathe that well, and she's like, it's okay. So we all go to the bathroom, and I'm standing there and I'm washing my hands, and I turn around and I look and I see this old couple, and they were old and like all raggedy kind of looking, torn up clothes, old like hats and everything, looked like they're from either the 17 or 1800s, like farmers, and they looked very angry. I don't know if they were tied to something in the store specifically, because that can happen. They can have some type of soul tied to different objects, the land, basically like they're tethered to it until they break a certain cycle, if that's something that you want to, believe in. But so I tell my mom, and I told her what I saw, and she's like, kind of dismissed it. She's like, it's okay, just kind of do your thing. And as I'm walking around the store, the old woman is following me, just noticing that I'm seeing her, and that was making her mad, and she was getting kind of angrier. I couldn't breathe, and I finally told my mom, I was like, we need to go. So she sets me outside with my sister in front of the store on the curb, because there's a big festival going on and everything. She could still see me from where we were. She goes up to the owner, and she's like, hi, I don't know if you believe in this type of thing, but my daughter just described to me, this old couple described kind of what I said. They're old, wearing raggedy clothes. They looked really angry, definitely like farmers, or they were in like a rural area back when they were alive for sure. She told them, she's like, they're following us around and they don't seem to be happy. She's like, I don't know how much you believe in like ghosts or spirits. And the manager's face turned white, and she said, no, that actually does make sense. So then she went on to say, every morning, that whole year, there's this jogger that would run, he'd be on that side of the street, and the second he was going to get towards that antique store, he'd cross the street, keep running, and once he passed it, he'd cross the street again and get back on the same path. And 2 weeks before I went in there, he finally ran, normally, and went into the store and said, I hate to tell you guys this, you're gonna think I'm nuts. I'm seeing this old couple, like very old, maybe farmers, describe them to a T of what I said they looked like, and they're in here and they're not happy. I don't know how much you believe in that. Take with that what you will. And he ran off. So.
Whoa.
Yes.
That's so cool. That's messed up. How old was that one?
I was a year older than the last one, so maybe second
graders. Okay, so it was
7,
8, 9, 10, somewhere 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there.
Yeah, something around that. But yeah, and it kept getting crazier and crazier throughout the time. That whole year I saw a few other ones, but that one definitely stuck with me. Just that feeling, like I've never felt such, like, it's like the air was polluted and thick and heavy, and it was just like breathing in like anger.
Is this when these things started showing more malice?
Yes. Yes. I think once you're open to seeing things, and you don't set an intention of what you're open to see, you'll start seeing everything good and bad. And back then I didn't really understand, like, to kind of close a little bit of a boundary. I was just, a very imaginative kid with just, complete, I thought everything was good, and I thought everything was friendly, and I didn't really kind of think about the consequences or how dark something could be.
And so, how old were you again? I'm sorry.
Oh, I am 20.
No. How old were you when that one happened?
About second grade, maybe 7 or 8. around that time frame.
So I'm so curious. I never actually was able to talk to somebody about this kind of thing. I've only seen it on TV and stuff like that. So when you see somebody, is it like just in your mind's eye kind of seeing somebody, or do you actually see just like a regular person see right in front of you?
A little bit. So when I was really young, I would see them like they're standing here, but I knew that they weren't there. Like they weren't like translucent or like different colored. They were kind of how they were when they were alive. But you just had this gut feeling that it's, they're not here. Like they're not alive. They've passed on. So they do look similar. Now other times some of them won't present themselves to you, and then they'll start messing with you. And that's another way. They're kind of tricksters. They hide. They don't want to be seen. And that's another one that you have to
hiding stuff on you, or taking stuff from you, or moving stuff. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. That's interesting. So do they know that you can see them when they are there in front of you?
I think so. Because usually it's kind of like, most of the time it's kind of like a double take kind of situation. Like with the old couple at the antique store, I think they were just kind of doing their rounds, patrolling or something, just kind of walking around. And they noticed that I saw them and my eyes got big, and, I had a reaction to them. So they're like, oh, okay, she could see us. Sometimes they don't want to be seen. And other times they do, and they're waiting for somebody to kind of look. It's all about energy, and sometimes depending on if they're good or bad, if you can see them and they know that, they want to feed off of your fear, so they'll try to do things to freak you out, that type of situation. But other times, sometimes they could be stuck in like a tethered loop where they're constantly replaying the same thing over and over and over again, and they have no idea. Sometimes they don't even know that they're dead.
So in that kind of situation, they wouldn't even notice you.
Yes, that type of thing.
I always wondered about ghosts because, why do they have the clothes on that they have? If I'm a ghost one day, I don't want to be walking around in my jeans and my shirt that's got paint on it. You know what I'm saying? Do they get to choose what clothes they wear or how you see them? I'm not asking you personally. I'm just saying that out loud.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think sometimes it can be like a symbolism thing. Like with my great-grandma, that blouse she chose, and she chose to hold a red rose. That was like a sign of like peace, like safety, love, family. It kind of showed like something being united. So I guess they can kind of change how they kind of represent themselves and bring themselves to you.
I would always thought that, because you always see this kind of thing in the movie, or in the movies or TV shows, but I always thought it was like what they had on when they passed, or like what they had on when they were laid to rest, kind of thing. Maybe I'm just Hollywooding that up. I don't know.
It could technically kind of go that way. It just kind of depends on how they died, how severe, what they were doing, if it was peaceful or not. Maybe. I don't know, though. These are all just theories.
I've never seen those kinds of things, but my only other thing, I've heard things that freak me out, I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and my dad had our house built and everything, and I used to listen to music that he didn't approve of late at night. And I was listening, and I remember very, very clearly, I was listening to Metallica, Enter Sandman. And I was drifting off to sleep, and there's a certain part of the song where it sounds like there's knocking. And it freaked me out. I woke up, and I thought it was him knocking on the door or whatever. And, I yelled out, come in, whatever, and there was no sound. But imagine the sound of a light switch, on the wall, that sound that it makes when you click up and click down. I kept hearing that, but there was no lights going on and off, but I kept hearing that sound over and over and over again. And I thought maybe my older brother was messing with me or something, so I got up and I looked around, and, absolutely nothing. And I didn't hear it once I left my room. I walked back into my room, laid back down, and all of a sudden it started again. So needless to say, I didn't get any sleep that night, but that sound of a light switch kept happening over and over and over and over again. So I put my music back on to try to drown it out, but I could hear it through the music.
That would scare the crap out of me.
It did. And I was like freaked out because I thought, here's my dad. He knows I'm listening, to Metallica. And, he's going to whoop up on me or something. But there was just that sound of the light switch over and over and over again. I couldn't make it stop. And I never heard it again after that. But I thought maybe it was in the music and I heard it, and now that sound is kind of like stuck there. I don't know.
Well, maybe your dad was right. You should have been listening to that devil music.
Oh man.
Do you want us to tell another one of your ghost hunts or something else?
Yeah, that'll be good. We can do the second most recent one that I've done. So me, my boyfriend, 2 of my friends wanted to get together to ghost hunt on my friend Gracie, her land, her family's land. Now, allegedly, according to them, it is every bit of the land from their houses to their pond that they have. They kind of have a little event center thing going too. Was built on Indian burial ground land. Allegedly. I don't know how much of that is true. I don't know too much of the research, but going into it, I was telling everyone to be very, very, very respectful. Because if there's one thing I don't mess around with is Native American folklore or kind of how they do things. Definitely don't want to have an encounter with some type of skinwalker or anything like that, which I believe in 100%. But so we start kind of doing everything. We have a spirit box, which those of you who don't know, it is a mini radio that you can kind of set, and how it works is you can rev it forward or backward. And you can change the speed so it will play little bits of a radio at a time. So it'll be like, and then it will pick up a random word. So you can kind of ask it questions out loud that way. I have a REM pod, which is a motion detected type of pod. So if you get near it, if there's movement detected by it, it will light up and then it will start making a really loud noise. Then we have little cat balls. Those are used, I don't know if they were used in Ghost Adventures, but they were on this, there's these YouTubers that ghost hunt, and they have them, and it's motion censored. Like, the cat balls don't light up unless they've been hit or if there's been movement around them, and it takes a lot to move it.
Rhonda's got some of those. She used them to freak me out.
It's crazy. The amount of stuff you can get with those is insane. Then I had a twist flashlight, and basically the idea is a spirit can make it turn on and off if you ask it to. Dowsing rods as well. I love using dowsing rods. That's the quickest way to get an answer, quickest way you can ask for, like, I guess, clearance on what you've seen and get it approved. So I would ask the rods, and I would only use it to really communicate with my guides or my angels around me. Like, did I just hear this word? And then it would cross for yes, or stay wide open for no, or whatever the case may be. So we're kind of changing around locations, we're getting these different things, and all of a sudden it says my boyfriend's name randomly through the spirit box. So we're all just very intrigued by that. So we start doing this thing called the Estes method, which is essentially you get headphones that are noise canceling, and you plug it into the spirit box. Whoever has the headphones on will then blindfold themselves. It's a sort of sensory deprivation thing where you can use that person not as a vessel or a conduit, but kind of as like a tool equipment for, you're asking questions, trying to get some proof or insight on something. So how that kind of works is if you're under, you're just hearing this and it'll pick up random words and kind of throw it out there as it's skimming through different radio stations. Then you're blindfolded, so you can't necessarily hear anything that's going on around you, so you can't hear or you can't try to see people mouthing words to you, asking you questions to do something like that. So my boyfriend goes under, as I said, his name, so we blindfolded him, put that on, and it's revving through. And how you're supposed to do it is you only say a word that you heard through the spirit box if it's very clear, if it feels right to you. So that's whenever you'd say it. So if I was doing it, I'd be blindfolded, had my headphones on, and then I'd be quiet for a little bit, and then I'd say pizza or a random word kind of like that. So my boyfriend wanted to go under, so we have him kind of, tied away. He has no idea what's happening. We have these cat balls all around us. We're at this little picnic table on her land. We've got the REM pod ready to go, waiting for some type of motion to to go off. So we're asking it, okay, can you go over there and touch the REM pod? And it didn't. And then we are asking, can you give us a sign? Can you show us that you're here? And he just kept saying random words. It wasn't really matching up to our questions, so I was kind of a little disappointed in that sense. And it said baseball before, and I was like, baseball? That has nothing to do with anything I just asked. And then we all kind of laughed, me and my friends, and next thing you know, we hear this loud crash, like someone was behind me and just hit a baseball as hard as they could. Like, think about Babe Ruth coming up behind you and hitting a baseball right behind your head. And it was so loud that it shook kind of the table that we're on. So me and my girlfriends back up, and we kind of jump away from the table. We have our hands up, like, moving away. We're freaking out. Then we grab my boyfriend. We start shaking him. We're like, hey, look. And then all the cat balls around us start lighting up. And he didn't know what was going on. He didn't hear anything, but we told him it was the loudest crash ever. So we were trying to figure out everything we can do to recreate it. We were throwing rocks on the building that we were near, seeing if that would make that noise. And we were trying to walk around and, like, see if anyone was there, and we were there all by ourselves. So it was definitely a lot of different strange things that were going on from that.
So did he have headphones on so he couldn't hear either?
Yes, all he could hear was the spirit box, and blindfolded, so he was in like a trance-like state. So that's the ideal thing for the Estes method. You want to be almost in a trance whenever you're doing it, because you get better answers that way. You're not worried about trying to listen really hard to see if you can hear other people saying something. It's supposed to be completely noise canceling, like you're in this trance.
When you're doing this stuff, do you ever have any concern that you might knock on the door of something that you shouldn't, or maybe, what's the right word I'm looking for? Like, heading down a path that you possibly shouldn't be on? I'm not sure how to word that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. There's always that thought in the back of your mind, but I make sure I kind of come prepared. I mentally tell everyone there's certain rules that you cannot do. I like to personally not ask how anything died. I do not want to know, because sometimes they were never alive to begin with. I don't want to ask personal information. Don't want to ask them things like, when am I going to die? Or things of that sort. Or, are you my grandpa talking to me? Because anyone can pretend to be anything. So I make sure I have very set, clear rules for everyone to follow. The second they're broken, I pull out and I get everyone out of there. As well as I make sure to have some type of spiritual protection at all times. From crosses to holy water, I have St. Michael's oil. He's the archangel against evil. There's prayers to St. Michael that you can pray when you get scared. St. Michael, vanquisher of evil spirits, pray for us. That's one of them. I have a pendant that I wear, St. Michael's oil. Then I go around and I sage people afterwards, and I have them keep me posted on different things. I'm kind of what's the word? I'm kind of like the life jacket for everybody. I've done spiritual cleansings on houses before. Some of my friends messing around with Ouija boards, which was insane, and just making sure everybody's safe.
Where you talked about the Baggins, what's his name?
Zach Baggins.
Zach Baggins, and his group, the Ghost Adventures. There was 3 of them, and the second to main guy, Nick Groff. From what I understand, now he has left the Ghost Adventures a while back, and I think that from what I understand, what happened to him was something followed him home.
Oh yeah.
And affected him and his wife and like their newborn baby, and it went really bad really fast, and he actually left a multi-million-dollar gig.
That's the scary part too. You can always bring something home with you, even if you're not intending to do so. So negative entities, I like to call them little leeches, those ones, because they will wander until they find someone that it matches their level, and they'll attach. So usually you'll find this with people who are really depressed or sad and they can't get out of bed, and they end up attracting these things, and they feed off that negative energy, and they will just keep tormenting. And I've seen that firsthand. You can bring things back from Walmart or overseas if you went to war, especially in a war setting, or you can get it just by sitting in your house. I mean, think about how many people have died on the land that you're on right now whether it be just an accident or some type of war going on, Civil War, Revolutionary War, Indians, anything like that. There's been death all around, and sometimes if traumatic enough, it leaves an imprint, and it kind of creates a negative window.
So has anything ever followed you?
No, I don't let it. I set that boundary very quickly. Once I started seeing ghosts when I was little, my mom taught me this method that she would use. So, Glinda the Good Witch from Wizard of Oz, how she had that little bubble that she'd fly around in.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, anytime you feel scared or you feel like something's there that's negative, close your eyes and imagine this bubble of white light coming out of your heart and surrounding you completely to protect you. Things of that type of thing.
But how do you, if somebody's with you that is, very skeptical, let's just say that, do you even mess with trying to convince them that, there is a reality to this, or do you just kind of try to show them, or how do you get around that?
I just kind of try to talk to them. Now, if it gets something to be kind of intense, I don't want to necessarily open them up to something to where they're scared and then not give them resources. So I just kind of ask and I see what they say, and I'll tell my truth and let them kind of decide if I'm crazy to them or if I have some truth to me. But definitely don't want to have someone start believing from things I'm saying and them not being properly equipped to kind of deal with that. Because the second you kind of put your foot in the door, things start happening very quickly. You just have to be open to it. Even if you're not, you'll still see some things. Like, my dad's seen some things and he wasn't open to it. In fact, he was trying every way to rationalize everything that he was seeing, and things just kind of got kind of crazy.
That's interesting. I was in the Army for a really long time, and along with your dad as well. And, soldiers see things in combat, and I know that tends to stick with some people. Sometimes I wonder, just based off of what you're saying, is there the possibility that the imagery or the experience that sticks with a soldier after combat could be more than just them remembering, that thing, that incident, that day, or whatever?
That's deep.
Yeah, I think so, 100%. Like, my dad used to tell me this story. He was in a firefight, and it went to slow motion, and he saw his grandpa, like a guardian angel, standing there and telling him to be brave. So I think if there can be good during that, there definitely can be bad. I feel like he definitely brought something back from one of his times overseas, and he probably at the time thought he was in a funk until it started messing with me and my sister when we were little in the house, and my mom. That was crazy. If you believe in shadow figures, I'll tell you that they are real. Shadow
figures?
Yes. So
what is that?
So some people know them as kind of like a sleep paralysis type of thing. Now you can see them when you're completely awake or when you're asleep. More than likely, people see them whenever they're having sleep paralysis. Something standing over them, all tall black figure, sometimes wearing a top hat. Other times, not so much. All the ones I saw didn't. But it's basically a negative energy that follows you around, and they don't appear like how I've seen normal ghosts. They're tall, black, shadowy figures, and they're quick, and they run, and they cause chaos.
Come in all different sizes too. I saw a shadow figure when I was younger, so I absolutely. I'm not sure I believe in all the paranormal stuff, but I saw something in my haunted house when I was growing up, and it was, to me, I can only describe it as a shadow figure.
Yes.
It's actually, this story I brought for tonight is about shadow figures.
Ooh, can't wait.
But yeah, shadow figures are crazy. Me and my sister used to run around the hallway in the middle of the night, like running to the fridge or running to our parents' room super fast, so you just hear that pitter-patter of us running in the hallway. But after a while, we stopped running into the hallway, but you'd still hear that pitter-patter, like that little fast, frantically run. So my parents would get up, turn the lights on, because we were supposed to be asleep, and you wouldn't see anything. Then out of the corner of your eye, you'd see something run straight across, just black, running. Or I'd be standing in the rooms kind of watching.
Hell no.
Yes. Luckily, we got them out.
Nope, I'd burn the whole place down.
There was times where we wanted to, but that's another thing. People say don't burn Ouija boards after you use them and you have a bad experience, because whatever you were talking to, you just set it free.
Right.
And it can come back and find you.
There's a way to discard of those Ouija boards.
Oh yeah.
When I was growing up, I lived in a haunted house, and I told the story on one of the other Halloween specials we did, so I won't tell the whole thing. But the shadow person I saw was that we had an old house, and the wooden door going down to the basement, which is where I lived. That was my room. I opened it, heard a noise down there, which was common in this house because it was a haunted house. And I opened the door, and the light downstairs was on, and I could see it. But between me and it on the stairs, there was a black figure of just a big black figure sitting between me and the light downstairs. It was absolutely there. It wasn't a hallucination. Definitely saw it, and it was kind of sort of the shape of a human being. Really big. Totally blocked out the light that was down below.
It's terrifying.
Slammed the door and ran.
I don't know that I've ever seen a shadow figure. Man, I just don't know if I'd be able to handle seeing something like that run through the house. I'd be like, nah, man. Nah, we're not doing this. Nope. Nope.
We lived out in the country, and we lived on this property that gave me the creeps anyway. Anytime I was out there by myself, I would have that feeling that you were talking about, Jeremy, where something's looking at me. I couldn't stand being out there. Anyway, in our house, I would see things like out of the corner of my eye, like something dark in the corner of the room. And at first, I would just ignore it. And then I would think I saw it move. And at some point, have you ever been so scared in bed that you just get sweaty and you're kind of stiff from not moving at all? That's how I would end up. And this was ongoing. And then I would get to where I just couldn't sleep, and I would see that darkness in the corner and start to freak out, and it would make me just stare even harder at the darkness. And the harder I would stare at it, it was like the darker it would get, or the bigger it would get. And my eyes, I was thinking my eyes were just playing tricks on me. And at some point I could even see it like pulsate, like get bigger and pulsate, or see its head, like the shape of the head on the top of it to tilt sideways. But mostly it would just like grow bigger when I would stare at it, and blacker, until I swear it looked like I could get up and go walk over there and maybe fall into the blackness. It was very, very scary, but I wasn't sure, if I was imagining it. And one night it all came to a head, and I had been so nervous about being out there in the country by myself. My daughter was there with me. I asked her to go sleep in my bedroom with me. I had a big king-size bed. So she came and slept in there. And I was sleeping on my side facing the door of the room away from her. And I felt like I was sleeping good finally, in a deep sleep. And I started to sort of wake up. Have you ever felt like something's looking at you while you're asleep? I know Keith has.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like something was looking at me, so I was starting to wake up, and I started waking up. It was like such a split second that this all happened. It sounds like it's going to draw out for like 5 minutes when I tell you all this, but it was like a split second. I started becoming more conscious, and there was this, something was by my face, and I swear I could feel like the energy. Have you ever put your hand close to somebody and you can kind of feel energy? I swear I could feel this energy of something in front of my face, and almost like breath on me, but there wasn't any air. And I was thinking my daughter's probably jacking with me, she's trying to scare me. So I became conscious enough to open my eyes, and there was this black face right in front of me with no features on it except for the shape of a nose and kind of indentions of eyes. The only way I can really describe it is if you see someone put pantyhose over their head. That's what it was shaped like, but it was pitch black. And I was like, because it wasn't my daughter. So I gasped. And when I did, I jumped up at the same time, and she was right behind me, and I ran into her in the bed. And I was screaming and jumping across that bed and grabbing my daughter and trying to get to the other side of the room and get the light turned on. And I got the light turned on. There was nothing in there. But I've never been so scared in my life.
I would have grabbed the closest thing to me and thrown it at it, including my kid. I'd be like, here, sacrifice, I'm out.
Oh, I'm surprised my daughter's not traumatized.
Absolutely not.
So tell us another one. And we're probably going to make one of the last ones.
So, I'm at the gym. I decided to go late one night. It was a Saturday night, 24-hour gym. It's probably 11 o'clock at night. I'm in the middle of doing one of my sets, and I check my phone, and my friend, she's calling me. Basically, she was like, "Hey, I just wanted to see what you were up to. I think I need your help." And I was like, "Yeah, of course. Just at the gym. What do you need?" She's like, "Well, me and my boyfriend and his friends just did a Ouija board at my boyfriend's new house, and since then everything has gone crazy and AWOL. Can you come over here and try to fix it?" So, I drive over there. They live next to a Air Force base, a pretty big one. So already that area, I feel like people are coming in and out, constantly traveling from different places around the world. Could be a big place that, can attract different spirits or energies. So I get inside the house. The second I open the door, it's freezing cold in there. Freezing cold. They have a little Australian Shepherd, and that dog, I think they rescued it before, and it really didn't like meeting new people, but the second I came inside, it ran in between my legs. It was terrifying. They're like, "Oh, that dog never does that. Like, that's so weird." And I was like, okay, like I already get the energy of the house because it's already so cold. So they bring me to the room that they were doing the Ouija board in, and I asked, "So what exactly happened? What went down?" So my friend, she was just kind of watching, and her boyfriend and his friends were messing around with it, using it improperly, cursing at the spirits, calling it things like, "You scared little B word," "You won't do anything, you're not gonna hurt us," taking their hands off the planchette after questions, which you're not supposed to remove your hands off the planchette unless you've said goodbye. Things like that, getting up, running around, and all of a sudden, when they're in this bedroom doing it, the shower curtain in the bathroom flies across the bathroom, and it makes noises, and things start moving around, and all of his friends left, and afterwards it was just really crazy what was going on. So they had an older house. It wasn't very cold outside, but it was colder inside the house than it was on the outside. And they had a furnace that they were trying to get going, and it was, some areas were a little bit warmer than others, so I kind of get my stuff ready. I brought some sage, some Palo Santo, some crystals for good energy, got my prayer book ready to start praying to protect everyone. And I'm doing a tour. I look in the bathroom, the shower curtain's still on the ground. I guess they didn't want to touch it. Then I go into the room where they were doing it, and it was way colder in there than it was in the entire house, and that house was cold. And then figured out the Ouija board was being stored there. So I walk around, and I open up all the windows of the house, and I start praying, start showing everyone, like, this is what you do if you feel something bad. I gave them sage, and walking around, and I was like, you can pray, you can just imagine peace and like love around you and filling up the house. Then you have to be stern. So think of it like a mom talking to their kid after they've gotten into trouble. "You're not allowed to be in this area. I don't allow you in my space. I don't allow your energy to mess with mine. I have more higher control over this area than you do. You are banished. You are not allowed to mess with us. My spirit guides and guardian angels and God is protecting me always. You will never amount to that. You need to leave." So I walked around the house, and I'm starting to do that, and the dog's still following me. And after I get everything cleansed, and I gave them crystals to put under their bed, because I feel like there's definitely some things that could have some type of metaphysical energy to it. And by wearing different crystals, you can kind of manifest different things. Like, people will carry rose quartz in their pocket for love, or a black onyx around your neck for protection against evil. So I had some smoky quartz, which is also used for protection, and I've had them put them under the pillows of their room, because God forbid the last thing you're going to want to experience is sleep paralysis after you just had something like that and having things mess with you, because that would be absolutely insane. But after I did it, the house felt really warm, and I gave them everything that I brought with me, and I was like, "I showed you how to do it, just keep doing it." So everything was really, really great in that amount of time, for about a year, and then I guess, I don't know if they did it again after, I'm not entirely too sure, but I get a message from my friend. It's middle of the day. They are, working, and she said that the house blew up. And I said, "Blow? What do you mean it blew up? Like the house?"
You mean exploded?
It exploded.
What the hell?
There was a gas leak throughout the day randomly. They were gone at work, and it was caught on a neighbor's Ring camera, and it shows the house from the inside. They think it was gas leaks explode. Now, I have a feeling that it was related to that, because after I told them, you have to kind of keep maintenance after something like that's happening. If you're having some type of possession happen in a house, some poltergeist activity, that's not just a one and done, wish it away. It's a constant wish it away, setting boundaries, pulling your strength, kind of playing the higher power to get it out until it leaves. Or you just relocate if it's gotten that strong. But either they stopped doing that, or they did the Ouija board in there again, or they were provoking it, or had their one of the boyfriend's friends came over and were just kind of still provoking it or talking about it, and it blew up. And unfortunately, that dog that was in between my legs the whole time following me around passed in the explosion, I guess, or the gas leak, or whatever it may be.
That's horrible.
Which was insane. Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it's highly coincidental if anything, but if not, man, I mean, and you try. It sounds like you tried to help them, set them on the right path.
Yeah, you can only do so much about kind of guiding people to the right, area and the light, and it's up to them to keep up with the maintenance. And then sometimes things kind of happen, but that's another reason you just have to make sure you're sure of yourself and you're sure of your protective powers, whether you believe in God or something else. Having something of a higher power guiding you and protecting you at all times, and that's one way.
I would like to ask you, when you said you were doing prayers, is it Christian prayers, or is it just saying nice stuff? And what does that mean, prayers?
So I tend to go to the old-fashioned way. The good old-fashioned Hail Mary and Our Father, blessing the house. Then I'd have my sage and I'd make crosses on every entrance and exit, having the windows open, crossing on the mirrors just in case, because you never know, that type of thing. But then I would go back and forth in between each prayer. I would say things like, "You are not allowed here. You're no longer welcome here. This space no longer holds any room for you. We are the stronger ones here. We dominate the 3D realm. You are not allowed in our space. You must leave." And then you start praying again. That's one way, at least I found it. But there's many different ways. You even have highly talented exorcisms and exorcists from like the Catholic Church who go in and exorcise a place and it feels fine for a little bit, but usually if it's bad, it always comes back and kind of lingers there. So there's only so much you can do, but just making sure your boundaries are set up to where a possession can't happen to you, because that's where it gets extremely scary.
Right.
I've never seen that, but don't ever want to.
Oh, wow. Does anybody else have a scary story to tell tonight as we start to head towards the end of the podcast?
I realize that I do, but I was thinking about holding off on it because it's kind of dark and it does involve a suicide.
True story.
Yeah, very true story.
I don't mind putting it on the show if you don't mind, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's dark. So when I was stationed in Korea last time in 2015, 2016, in our unit there was a married couple, and they got divorced while they were there, and I guess it got somewhat ugly. They lived in the same apartment complex, so after their divorce, he just went to another apartment, so because his kids and everything were right there. So we got alerted that the husband had committed suicide, and he did so by jumping from his apartment, which was about, 25 or 30 stories up. The wife was walking out to go to work, like 5, whatever in the morning. sees all of this madness, did not realize it was him. So she gets on to work, and she had no idea that it was him. She gets there, they pull her aside, they do the notification and do all those things. Well, when I got called in, I was there very, very late. And when a soldier passes, there's this whole packet of stuff that you have to do. So I was working on that, and I was trying to get the printer to print some stuff off, and it wasn't working. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with this printer? So I'm sitting there, and I had hit print probably like 10 times. So all of a sudden I heard the printer going. Excuse me. And I walked out of my office and I walked up to the printer, and the only thing that it was printing, it had his name and the word help underneath it. And it kept printing that over and over again. And I walked back in my office, I grabbed my stuff, and I left.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, now mind you, I just grabbed my stuff and I left. I called my supervisor and I'm like, yo, I'll be back when it's daylight. I'm not going back in my office until other people are there. And she's like, what is wrong with you? So I told her what had happened, and she was kind of freaked. So we get there in the morning, and I open up the door and I peek and I look, and I was like, all right, nothing's in here. Okay. I look over on the printer.
You peeked in the room.
I did. I literally peeked. I did. I'm not messing around, man. I got that one eye. It's looking. But yeah, I saw that the paper was still on the copier, and the last thing that it printed was his official photo. And there was probably like, I don't know, 25 or 30 pages of that thing that had his name, and it said help, and then his picture printed. And I showed her that, and she's like, nah, man, nope, I'm out. So I had to take all that paper, shred it, and I was sitting there thinking, I cannot tell a single person that this has happened. I am not doing this. So it was an extremely, tragic thing. And then all of a sudden she realized, wait a minute, the person that I saw and the ambulance and all that blood and stuff all over that car was him. And she did not have a clue that had happened. And man, it was hard to deal with it after that.
The night was alive with the sound of crickets, a low droning hum that seemed to press down from the black sky. Somewhere deep in the woods of Pine Hollow, an owl let out a shriek, sharp as a razor's edge. It echoed in the stillness before being swallowed by the towering trees, their skeletal branches clawing toward the crescent moon. The kids were already regretting their decision, though none of them would like to admit it, not to each other and certainly not to themselves. They huddled around the fire, the flickering orange flames casting long shadows that danced and wavered around the damp earth. Smoke curled up into the cold air, mixing with the faint, woodsy scent of pine needles and something else. Something rotten. It lingered and clung to the back of their throats. "You smell that?" Ethan said, his voice barely a whisper. He sat cross-legged on a log, staring into the fire, trying not to let his imagination get the best of him. It was his idea to come out here after all. He'd read all the stories online, seen the blurry pictures, listened to the podcasts, each one convincing him more than the last that Bigfoot was real. Real and living right here in the dark heart of Pine Hollow. "Smells like something dead," said Amy, wrinkling her nose and scooting closer to Ethan. She was the only girl brave enough to come along. The other girls had made excuses. Homework, chores, strict parents. But Amy liked the thrill of it all. She thrived on it. "Maybe a deer or something," she said. "Yeah, or maybe it's him," said Ben, grinning wide, his flashlight trained on the woods behind them. He was the loud one, always cracking jokes, always trying to one-up Ethan. but the laughter in his voice sounded strained, like even he didn't fully believe it anymore. The big guy, Bigfoot, here to tear our faces off, waggling his fingers like claws. "Shut it, Ben," Ethan snapped, tossing a stick into the fire. Sparks shot up, sizzling into the night. "It's probably just, something natural." His voice faltered on the word. Natural felt like a lie in these woods, under this sky. He stomped on the fire, turning the flames into white smoke and steam. "Let's move on. We need to go deeper into the woods." It was challenging trying to find the perfect campsite, but they had been walking for hours, and the sun was slipping down behind the trees with every step they took. They finally found a clearing by the creek where Ethan had convinced them to set up camp. Even now, with the firelight casting long shadows over the faces of his friends, he wasn't sure that this was such a great idea after all. "No one's out here except us," Greg said, his voice gravelly from smoking too many cigarettes. He was the oldest, the one who was supposed to be in charge, tall and broad-shouldered and fearless. Greg was only there because his little brother Ethan had begged him, and Greg figured it was the best chance for him to get out of the house. "Whatever that smell is probably just some dead animal. The woods are full of them," he said. Amy shuddered and looked over her shoulder into the black trees. They seemed to sway in the wind. But there was no wind. Air was still, suffocating. Her fingers tightened around the flashlight in her lap, her knuckles pale with the dim glow of the fire. "I don't like this," she whispered, more to herself really than to anyone else. A branch snapped somewhere off in the distance. They all froze, every muscle tensed, every breath held. The night, so full of sound, seemed to swallow itself. The crickets fell silent, even the trees stopped swaying. It was as if the entire forest was holding its breath, waiting. Ethan swallowed hard, his mouth dry. His heart was thudding so loud in his chest he was sure everyone could hear it. Just a deer, he told himself. A deer, or maybe a raccoon. Another snap, closer this time. Amy's flashlight flicked on, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife, but it only illuminated more trees, more shadows. The light seemed to make the forest even darker somehow, like the woods themselves were alive and defiant. "What the hell was that?" Ben whispered, his bravado gone. His hand was shaking as he held onto his flashlight, darting the beam left and right, then back again. Nothing but trees, trees and more trees, and yet something was watching. Ethan could feel it. His skin prickled with the awareness of it, a presence just beyond the reach of the light. "I don't know," Greg said, his voice a low growl, "but we're getting out of here right now." Ethan stood up, his legs shaky. He opened his mouth to say something, to argue, maybe to agree. But before he could, a new sound cut through the silence, a low, guttural growl. It wasn't like anything he ever felt before. Not a bear, not a mountain lion. It was deep, primal, vibrating through the ground and into his bones. His stomach churned, his blood ran cold. Ben dropped his flashlight and it hit the ground with a dull thud, the beam spinning widely, casting erratic shadows over the trees. The growl came again, louder this time, closer. The smell of rot filled the air, thick and cloying. Ethan's eyes widened as he stared into the trees, into the darkness. And then he saw them. Two glowing eyes, massive, staring right at him from between the trunks, unblinking, filled with a kind of rage he couldn't even begin to comprehend. The growl ripped through the stillness again, low and guttural, vibrating through the earth beneath Ethan's feet. For a moment, the world felt wrong, tilted. The trees around him seemed to close in. Their shadows lengthened, reaching for him. The air was thick, heavy with rot, pressing down on him like a wet blanket. The eyes, those massive glowing eyes, stared out from the darkness between the trees. They were too high up, far too high, like they belonged to something standing tall. Ethan could barely breathe, his heart thudding in his chest as if trying to escape his ribcage. "We need to move," Greg said, his voice trembling for the first time all night. His flashlight flickered in his shaking hand, casting long, jittery shadows on the forest floor. The bravado he'd worn like armor had cracked, and for the first time, he looked terrified. Amy was backing up, her flashlight still trained on the eyes. "What is that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rapid shudder of her breath. Her wide, terrified eyes reflected the firelight as she stumbled backward, her foot catching on a root. Ethan reached out and grabbed her arm just as she was about to fall, pulling her back to her feet. He glanced over at Ben, whose face had gone pale, his body rigid with fear. Ben's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The joke-cracking, fearless Ben was gone. replaced by something frozen and mute. The growl came again, louder now, deeper, filled with a rage that was almost palpable. It rumbled through the air like a living thing, making Ethan's bones vibrate. Whatever was out there wasn't watching them. It was coming for them. "We have to go now," Greg shouted, grabbing Ben by the back of his jacket and yanking him toward the trail. Ben stumbled forward, the spell of fear finally breaking. He looked back over his shoulder, his eyes wide, as if expecting to see a creature barreling toward them. Ethan pulled Amy along, his feet moving before his brain could catch up. The four of them bolted toward the path, the underbrush tearing at their legs, branches slapping at their faces as they ran. The sound of their footsteps pounded in unison, desperate and frenzied, but no matter how fast they ran, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was closing in, behind them, and fast. A branch snapped, louder this time, like a gunshot. And then the footsteps started, heavy, thunderous, crashing through the trees behind them. Whatever it was moving faster than anything Ethan had ever heard before, faster than any bear or deer. It was heavier and bigger, much bigger. They broke through the trees into another small clearing, the moonlight barely illuminating the space, casting it in an eerie silvery glow. The creek lay ahead, its dark waters rushing past like a silent witness to the terror unfolding. Ethan turned around, his chest heaving, expecting to see the thing burst through the trees. Instead, the woods were still again, almost peaceful in the way that they held their silence. It was as if the creature had vanished, swallowed back up by the shadows. The only sound was the rush of the creek and their labored breathing. But Ethan knew better. "Do you see it?" Amy gasped, heart pounding through her chest, her hand clutching her side as she tried to catch her breath. Her wide eyes darted from tree to tree, searching the darkness. "Where is it?" "I don't know," Greg muttered, his voice rough with exhaustion. His flashlight flickered and went out, plunging them into a deeper darkness. "But we need to keep moving. We can't stay here." Ethan nodded, his mind racing, every instinct screaming at him to run. He took a step toward the creek, but then something caught his eye. Movement in the trees. His blood turned to ice. There it was. Just beyond the clearing, 100 yards or so, the creature stepped out from between the trees. It was massive, towering over the ground, no less than 10 feet tall, its broad shoulders hunched, its arms hanging low like an ape. But it was no ape. Not quite. Its body was covered in thick, dark, red matted hair, and its eyes glowing, burning, locked onto Ethan with an intelligence that was part human, part predator. It wasn't just an animal, it was something more, something old, something ancient. The creature's lips pulled back into a snarl, revealing jagged yellow teeth. It growled again, a deep, guttural sound that made Ethan's skin crawl and stomach turn. "Run!" Greg screamed, but Ethan was already moving. They all were. They sprinted toward the creek, the ground uneven beneath their feet, slipping and sliding over wet rocks. Ethan could hear the thing crashing through the trees behind them. Amy's screams cut through the night, sharp and terrified. She tripped, her foot catching the root hidden beneath the leaves, and went down hard, her body hitting the ground with a sickening thud. Ethan skidded to a stop, his heart lurching in his chest. "Amy!" he hollered. She was scrambling to get up, her ankle twisted beneath her. The creature was almost on them. Without thinking, he ran back, grabbing Amy by the arm and hauling her to her feet. Her face was pale, twisted in pain. But there was no time to think, no time to do anything but run. Greg and Ben had already reached the other side of the creek, standing on the opposite bank, screaming at them to hurry. Ethan half dragged, half carried Amy toward the water, his legs burning, his lungs on fire. The creature roared behind them as they took their first step into the creek. "Look!" Amy cried. They stopped dead in their tracks, the icy water biting at their legs as they looked across the creek at Ben and Greg. Two massive creatures, bigger than the first, stood behind the two young men. Ethan screaming to warn them, but it was too late. He watched in silence and disbelief as the beasts wrapped their giant arms around the two boys and ripped them to pieces. Amy's breath was erratic, her body trembled uncontrollably, tears rushing from her eyes as she stumbled out of the water and began to run. Ethan turned to grab her, but she was already halfway into the clearing when he saw it. The creature that was chasing them was now flat on the ground, crawling quickly towards Amy. It looked like a giant, hairy spider, hunting her as if she were prey caught in a web. Ethan watched helplessly as Amy's body bent in half when the Bigfoot grabbed her with one hand. She was flailing, struggling to scream, hanging there a few feet off the ground as the creature turned its head to Ethan, then gave him an evil smirk. before proudly gliding back into the forest with his fresh meal in hand. He barely got the words, "I'm sorry," out of his mouth when he was violently body-checked by one of the Bigfoot and flew into the rushing creek. He felt the cold water envelop his body, then pain, then darkness. A light breeze blew through the towering pine trees early the next morning. Several emergency vehicles scattered the parking area near the trailhead. 2 deputy sheriffs walked through the makeshift base camp, one of them asking, "Where's the boss?" The other replied, "He's a few miles up the trail, wanted to get an early start." "Can you believe that kid survived the elements all night? Do you believe his story?" The other deputy just kept quiet as they disappeared into a tent. Deep in the woods, a deputy hollers, "Sheriff, we're not going to find them. If it was a bear attack, there's likely to be nothing left of the bodies." "This was no bear attack," the sheriff replies as he kneels down next to a patch of ferns. Pulling back the large fern leaf, he spots a girl's shoe. Pink, camo, new, probably belonged to Amy. He slowly pulls the leaf back, revealing her ankle, then her calf, a knee, and then... "Where's the rest of her?" the deputy whispers. The sheriff sighs and mumbles under his breath, "Not a bear." My prepper brothers and sisters, it's important to take a break every now and again from life and chores and prepping. Go to the park, catch a show, go shopping, take the kids trick-or-treating, maybe even crash a costume party or two. The point is, thinking about, or worse, worrying about the state of the world and how to keep yourself prepared for it can be daunting and consuming. Halloween gives us the perfect excuse to slip away and enjoy living and thriving. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.